On the eve of our wedding, my boyfriend John Wilson gave the house we'd saved for together to his childhood friend Mary Johnson as a birthday gift. He said, "A woman should own her own property, that's her greatest confidence." Mary tearfully kissed his cheek in gratitude. I turned and walked away. Without our home, the wedding felt meaningless. Then Mary called after me, "Elizabeth, where's my birthday gift?" Seeing my empty hands, the others in the private room shot me disdainful looks, whispering that I'd come for a free meal. John flushed with embarrassment and scolded me, "Elizabeth, where are your manners? Who shows up empty-handed to a birthday party? Go buy Mary an LV bag as an apology." Head summoned me here right after work, forcing me to watch him give away our home. The old me would have screamed and fought, but now I was just exhausted. Who says I didn't bring a gift? I slid off my engagement ring and placed it on Mary's finger. "This is yours. May you and John have a lifetime of happiness and many children." I walked out without hesitation. John chased me, grabbing my wrist. "Elizabeth, stop this jealous act. I've always seen Mary as a sister." "Who were you trying to disgust with those words?" "I meant every word," I replied calmly. "She deserves that ring more than I ever did. Like Mary would want your used trash." He spat. "She can throw it away if she dislikes it." I shrugged. John stiffened. "Fine. Don't ever beg me for jewelry again." He stormed off. He was right, I had begged for this ring. On our engagement day, John claimed the wedding exceeded our budget, refusing to buy gold jewelry. I never cared for material things, only asking for this one symbol. He called me materialistic. After a week of silence, he reluctantly bought this 200 ring. I'd treasured it like my own breath. Now I understood. Things obtained by force never truly belong to you. Outside the hotel, icy wind bit through my clothes. Yet I felt nothing. No cold could rival the freeze in my heart. Much later, John called. "Elizabeth, where are you? My stomach hurts. Take medicine." "Why call me?" Once, I'd have rushed to him in panic, but I was done being his free nurse. Hanging up, I dialed my manager. "David, is that regional director position still open?" "Absolutely." David Smith's voice brightened. "Elizabeth, I've always admired your tenacity. You're perfect to spearhead our new market." "Thank you. I won't disappoint you." After booking my flight for next week, I bought the coat I'd coveted for months and dined at a luxury restaurant. My salary wasn't low, but I'd stretched every dollar saving for our homey dream John shattered. I sat in the mall until closing time, home near midnight. Deafening music assaulted me. Mary and her friends were dancing wildly in my living room. My carefully chosen linen sofa was smeared with cake frosting. Trash littered the floor. Every detail here held my heart now defiled. I flicked on the lights. The crowd froze mid-dance, glaring at the interruption. "Get out." My voice trembled with suppressed rage. Mary smirked, waving my property deed as she approached. "Elizabeth, you're really getting old and losing your memory. John has already given this house to me. Have you forgotten?" Her friends immediately chimed in. "That's right. Now this is Mary's house. We can do whatever we want here." "Mary, the first thing you should change the lock right away to prevent any random people from sneaking in." I snatched the property certificate from Mary's hand, opened it, and showed it to everyone. "Look clearly. The names on it are mine and John's. If you don't leave now, I'll report you for illegal intrusion into someone's home." A look of embarrassment flashed across Mary's face, but she quickly regained her composure. "Elizabeth, what are you so proud of? John has already said that he'll transfer the house to me tomorrow. This house is jointly owned by John and me. To transfer the ownership, both parties must sign. Now that I don't agree, the transfer can't be done." Hearing this, Mary immediately called John, crying and sniveling. 10 minutes later, John arrived. Mary immediately leaned on him pitifully. "John, you clearly gave this house to me. But now Elizabeth says she'll sue us for trespassing. John frowned and came over, pulling my hand to drag me out. Elizabeth, I've given this house to Mary. You're really embarrassing yourself now. Come back with me quickly. I shook off his hand. John, have you forgotten that I also contributed to buying this house? How can you decide to give it away without my consent? Having lost face in front of so many people. John raised his voice. Elizabeth, what do you mean now? Are you trying to settle accounts with me? Then what about the 280,000 yuan in betrothal gifts your mother asked me for without any dowry? How do you explain that? Mary and her group looked at me in shock. My goodness. Is this selling a daughter? How can such a thing still happen in today's society? Is this the so-called help the brother-sister? Whoever marries such a woman is really in bad luck. Their words made my face burn. And a deep sense of inferiority welled up in my heart. My parents are extremely patriarchal and have always exploited me like a cash cow. That's why I've always lacked confidence and security in front of others. I used to think John understood me. But now he's exposing my embarrassment in front of everyone. I pretended to be calm and took out the bill ID calculated during dinner. I contributed 350,000 yuan when buying the house. After subtracting the 280,000 yuan your mother took, you owe me 70,000 yuan. From now on, this house will be yours alone. John looked at the bill in extreme shock, completely not expecting me to do this. Elizabeth, the first always thought you were different from others. I didn't expect you to be so petty. I smiled. John, since you're so generous, then pay me back the 70,000 yuan you owe me. Provoked by my words, John immediately took out his phone and transferred 70,000 yuan to me. After receiving the money instantly, I said, meet me at the Housing Management Bureau at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. John gritted his teeth and said, fine, Elizabeth. Don't come back crying and begging me later. Mary's face lit up with joy and she immediately said, well, be there on time. After leaving the community, I went straight to a hotel to rest, looking at the 70,000 yuan balance in my bank card. A wave of sadness welled up in my heart uncontrollably. Just then, Mary sent me a recording. In the recording, Mary said contemptuously, John, how did you fall for Elizabeth? That helped the brother-sister. She has no looks and no figure. John sneered. I originally thought that a poor girl like her, who has been neglected since childhood, would throw herself at me as long as I was a little nice to her. But who would have thought that she'd let her parents ask for 280,000 yuan in betrothal gifts? With that money, I could marry any woman. Why would I have to marry her? Mary's exaggerated and mocking laughter came from the recording. So, the change in his attitude towards me was because of that 280,000 yuan betrothal gift. My eyes burned, and tears welled up and rolled down my cheeks uncontrollably. I first met John in my sophomore year of college. When I got into college, my parents thought it was a waste of money and said they wouldn't pay for my tuition and living expenses. I worked 2 part-time jobs every day and always chose the cheapest food in the school cafeteria. Due to long-term overwork and malnutrition, I fainted during a labor class. It was John who carried me to the school infirmary. After that, he barged into my life. He said he'd dialed the wrong number and topped up my meal card with 1,000 yuan. He came to me every day and asked me to pay with my card. But he always picked out the meat for me. Thanks to his care, my health gradually improved. Later, he confessed his love to me, but because of my family situation, I didn't dare to accept him. He gradually broke down my strong inner defenses and walked into my heart. I used to think he was my salvation, but now I know that 5 years of my youth and all my love have been in vain. The next day, I got up early. In order not to let John Wilson and Mary Johnson see my exhaustion, I put on a delicate makeup and changed into a newly bought overcoat. Instantly, I looked radiant. Even John couldn't help but be stunned when he saw me for the first time. Seeing this, Mary said with a slightly sour tone, "Elizabeth, that overcoat you're wearing costs too. 600. Did you buy it with the 70,000 John gave you yesterday?" Hearing this, John frowned and said, "Elizabeth, aren't you always the most thrifty? Who told you to buy such an expensive overcoat?" I curled my lips into a faint smile and looked at the two of them. First of all, the 70,000 John gave me yesterday was what he owed me. It was originally my money. Secondly, I don't need anyone's permission to buy things. Before, I lived frugally to buy a house and have a home with John. But now, the house is gone, and the person I wanted to spend my life with is also gone. Why should I be so thrifty? Mary disdainfully rolled her eyes at me and wrapped her arm around John's. "John, let's go in quickly. 1 is my lucky number. I want to be the first one to transfer the ownership of the house today." But John didn't move. He just looked at me and finally said, "Elizabeth, don't you have anything to say to me?" I smiled and said, "Then I wish you get what you want and wish Miss Mary get a new house." John's face turned extremely ugly. "Fine. Don't you ever regret it." The house transfer went smoothly. Mary happily walked out of the Housing Administration Bureau with the property certificate with her name on it. Finally, things were settled. I was about to leave when John called me from behind. "The wedding dress shop called yesterday and asked us to go and choose wedding photos today. Since you dressed up so nicely today to please me, I'll go with you to choose." I turned around and looked at him with a look as if I was looking at an idiot. "John, do you think I'll still marry you when the wedding house is gone?" A momentary panic flashed in John's eyes, and he asked me, "Elizabeth, what do you mean by that?" I said to him seriously, "Break up. Cancel the wedding. Do you understand?" "Elizabeth, what are you joking about? The wedding is next week. Everything is ready. Now you're telling me to cancel the wedding. Are you playing with me? You can give the wedding house to someone else on a whim. All I'm asking for is to cancel the wedding. Compared to you, I'm far from being excessive." I turned my gaze to Mary and said, "If necessary, you can just change the bride temporarily." Mary accepted your wedding house and engagement ring. It's normal for her to be your bride. Mary hugged the property certificate, and a blush gradually crept onto her face. "I'll do whatever John says." John said seriously, "Elizabeth, I've already told you that I've always regarded Mary as my own sister. Mary is all alone and has no one to rely on. If she had to rely on herself, who knows how long it would take for her to buy her own house. As her elder brother, I should give her more support. What are you so jealous about all day long?" John had told me more than once that Mary had lost her parents since childhood and had been living with her uncle. She was very pitiful, and he asked me to give in to her more. I retorted, "Mary is pitiful, so she can rely on you and you give her a house. What about me? Am I not pitiful? What have you ever given me?" John said matter-of-factly, "You have me. Isn't it enough to have me by your side?" Oh, he really has a nerve. Not wanting to argue with him anymore, I just turned around and left. That night, I posted a status on my social media, saying that my relationship with John was over and our wedding was cancelled. Many of my college classmates expressed their regret, saying that we used to be so in love and ours was a love that started from campus to the wedding. Yes, if I hadn't heard those recordings, I would also think that at least John and I used to love each other. But now I know that it was all an illusion. Not long after I posted the status, John called me. "Elizabeth, who allowed you to unilaterally announce the cancellation of the wedding?" "Our wedding won't be cancelled," I said coldly. "Whether you cancel the wedding or not is your business. But I won't go." "John, we're even?" John asked again reluctantly. "Elizabeth, are you really breaking up with me just because of a house?" "Yes. Just because of a house. Maybe John will never understand the meaning of a house to me." Hearing the determination in my tone, his tone seemed to be in a compromise. Okay. Well, just buy another house. But this time, without the 600,000 my dad gave me. Well, save for another 2 years to pay the down payment and then pay the mortgage every month. Okay. Thinking back on the past 2 years, in order to save money to buy a house, I hadn't bought a single new piece of clothing for 2 whole years. Even when I was hungry outside, I would go home to cook, just to save as much money as possible. Just thinking that I was getting closer to my dream house, I was full of motivation even if I endured a lot. But now, just because of his one sentence, he gave the house to his childhood friend, and now he's lightly telling me to save for another 2 years. What about after saving for 2 years? Take on a mortgage and then save for another 30 years. Am I such a despicable person? Do I only deserve to follow him and endure hardships? John, a house is still something I've always dreamed of, but I no longer want to own one with you. Just after hanging up the phone with John, my parents' call came in right away. They started scolding me as soon as they got on the line. Between the lines, it meant that now that I didn't want to get married, they wouldn't return the betrothal money. They told me to either marry into his family or figure out a way to pay the money back myself. Naturally, I wasn't surprised by this result, because the betrothal money, from the moment they got it, had all been taken to invest for my elder brother. So from the beginning, I didn't intend to let them pay it back. However, I still wanted to use this money to help me do one last thing. I told them that I would go home tomorrow to discuss what to do with them. In the evening, John persistently sent me hundreds of messages. At first, his tone was tough and commanding, telling me not to cancel the wedding. Later, he softened his attitude and pleaded. I blocked him without even finishing reading the messages. The next day, I took the agreement I had drawn up early and went back home. Dad, Mom, and my elder brother all looked at me with disgust, as if I were a source of pollution and would contaminate this home as soon as I entered. Finally, Mom was the first to speak. Elizabeth, you were getting along so well and were about to get engaged and married. Why isn't it working out now? I looked at them calmly. You told John before that you wouldn't give any dowry. And his parents found out. His parents said that the bride's family must give as much dowry as the groom's family gives in betrothal money, or the wedding won't take place. As soon as Mom heard this, she immediately shook her head repeatedly. This definitely won't work. From the day you were born until now, we've provided you with food and drink and sent you to college. We've spent at least 200,000 yuan. His family is having a sweet dream, getting a daughter-in-law for free. I sneered in my heart. Wasn't she afraid of being struck by lightning when she said this? Dad slapped the table and said, if we don't get married, so be it. In this day and age, are we still afraid that a daughter can't get married? The Wilson family said that if the wedding doesn't happen, you should return the 280,000 yuan to them. Hearing this, my elder brother, who had been playing games with his head down, was a bit flustered. That's even more impossible. I've already taken this money to invest with my friends. I definitely can't get it back in a short time. I looked at them as if in a difficult situation. Then what should we do if you don't return the money? The Wilson family said they'll call the police and accuse you of marriage fraud. Mom said, what fraud? Can our eldest daughter just be played with by their son for a few years for free? After hearing this, I felt extremely uncomfortable. In their hearts, what did they think of me? Their daughter, a woman who could be sold for money. I didn't want to beat around the bush with them anymore and directly said, there's another way. I'll cut off all relations with you, and I'll take on the 280,000 yuan debt. In this way, even if the Wilson family calls the police in the future, they can only come after me. As soon as I put forward this proposal, the three of them immediately looked at me with bright eyes and said it was a good idea. I took out the agreement to cut off relations, and the three of them signed it without hesitation. After signing, I was about to leave. But Mom said she had prepared a lot of dishes and asked me to stay for lunch, thinking that this should be the last reunion meal for our family of 4. I agreed. After solving their major concern, Mom went to the kitchen to cook. Dad watched his spy movies, and my elder brother continued to play his games. It seemed that only I had become an extra person. I pushed open the bathroom door. The small folding bed where I used to sleep was gone. Our family lived in a 2-bedroom, 1 living room apartment. 1 bedroom was for my parents, and the other was for my elder brother. Since I was born, I never had my own room. All I had was a folding bed. Whether it was in the living room or the bathroom, I would sleep wherever the folding bed was moved. This made me never have a sense of belonging from childhood to adulthood, which was also the reason why I insisted that John buy a house. I wanted a real room of my own, a place where I could feel a sense of belonging like a plant taking root. Mom did prepare a lot of dishes, ironically. The whole table was filled with dishes that my elder brother liked, and there wasn't a single dish that I liked. I swallowed the food like chewing wax and then walked out of the community like a walking corpse. Unexpectedly, at the community entrance, I saw John rushing here in a hurry. John looked at me with a pained expression and took out a tissue for me. Only then did I realize that I was crying. No wonder I felt my face was cold. Every time you go back to your parents' place, you'll be in a bad mood for a long time. Why do you still come back? I took the tissue and wiped the tears off my face. After calming down a bit, I said, "Because I came back to tell them that I'm canceling the wedding with you." John's expression froze. "Elizabeth, I've already said that I'll buy you a new house. Why do you have to hold on to this point?" I walked out expressionlessly. "Because I don't love you anymore." Is this reason good enough? No. I don't believe it. You used to like me so much. I don't believe you can suddenly stop loving me, believe it or not. Just then, John Wilson's phone rang. The caller ID clearly showed the name Mary. After much hesitation, John answered the phone. "Mary, I've told you to call me less often in the future." Mary's tearful voice came from the other end of the phone. "John, the first sprained my ankle and fell down the stairs when I was going downstairs. It hurts so much. Woo-woo." John's voice was tinged with anxiety. "Mary, where did you fall?" "I'll come right away." Mary gave an address. John hung up the phone and was about to rush over. He had already gotten in the car when he remembered I was still there. So he rolled down the window of the driver's cab, looking at me with a difficult expression on his face. He said, "Elizabeth, Mary sprained her ankle. I'll take her to the hospital and then come back to find you." I nodded with a faint smile. "Go ahead. Don't keep her waiting. I know how painful a sprained ankle can be." After getting my permission, John seemed to breathe a sigh of relief and said, "I'll be back soon. Wait for me." The car merged into the traffic like an arrow shot from a bow. I had seen this kind of scene many times before. No matter when and where, as long as Mary called, he would be called away and never come back. Actually, John was wrong. It wasn't that I suddenly stopped loving him. It was just that my love had been consumed in the countless times of waiting and disappointment. Sure enough, not long after, I saw a post on Mary's social media. "My childhood sweetheart is also my fateful encounter. He's like a superhero. Whenever I need him, he'll come to my side." The picture attached was a selfie of Mary leaning in John's arms. Scrolling down, there was a post from yesterday. He said a girl needs a house to have confidence. So he bought me a house. So happy. He accompanied me to Disneyland, which I've been longing to go to for a long time. I used to have a lot of unpleasant arguments with John because of these posts. Now I liked all of her posts one by one. It was not until I had finished washing up and was lying in the hotel that John remembered me and called me. His voice was tired. "Elizabeth, I'm here to pick you up. Where are you?" "No need. I've already come back." John's tone was a bit reproachful. "Why didn't you tell me when you left? You made me make a wasted trip. Do you know how tired I am today?" I sneered. "John, do you think I'm a fool? Look at what time it is now. Why do you think they'll wait for you there all the time? But I was really stupid in the past. During a rare holiday, John and I had an appointment to go climbing, but halfway up the mountain, John was called away by Mary's phone call. He asked me to go up first and wait for him. I climbed to the top of the mountain alone and waited from the bright sun until the moon rose. Actually, I already knew in my heart at that time that John wouldn't come. But I still stubbornly waited on the top of the mountain. I just wanted to know if John would remember me. Later, he remembered me. The first thing he did when he called was to scold me. "Elizabeth, are you a fool? Couldn't you come back when you couldn't wait for me? Who are you standing there for?" Obviously, John also remembered this incident. He apologized to me in a low voice. "Sorry, Elizabeth. I promise I won't leave you alone next time. Your apology is worthless." In the following days, John either called me every day or waited for me downstairs at the company. But most of the time, even if he waited for me, he would be called away by Mary's phone call after just a few words. Then he would call me to apologize. This went on until the day before the wedding. John looked at me seriously. "Elizabeth, Mary was discharged from the hospital today. You know she has no relatives. Only I can help her with the discharge procedures. But I promise you this is the last time. After we get married tomorrow, I'll definitely reduce my contact with her and keep a distance." I don't know where John got his confidence. He stubbornly thought that my indifference to him these days, including saying break up and canceling the wedding, were just angry words. He thought I would definitely show up at our wedding on time tomorrow. I didn't want to explain anything anymore. After perfunctorily sending him away, I went back and packed my luggage. Coincidentally, I was going to fly to another province with my colleagues in the marketing department tomorrow. By then, John would understand that I wasn't joking. The next morning, I pushed my suitcase and met up with my marketing department colleagues at the airport. Before boarding, I glanced at the messages John Wilson had sent me. "Elizabeth Brown, where did you get your makeup done today? The wedding dress shop owner said he didn't see you show up." "Elizabeth Brown, the hotel manager said you checked out. What's going on?" "Elizabeth Brown, today is our wedding day. Where on earth are you?" I texted him my airport location, then boarded the plane and turned off my phone. Just imagining John Wilson being frantic and overwhelmed on the other end made my mood lift significantly. Gazing out at the blue sky and white clouds, I knew I was about to embrace a new life. It was already half a year later when I returned. As the marketing director, I came back to headquarters to report on our performance over the past 6 months. After finishing the year-end presentation and stepping out of the building, I spotted John standing at the company entrance. He looked much more haggard, his face etched with weariness. The moment he saw me, he rushed forward and hugged me tightly. "Elizabeth, where have you been all these months? I've searched for you everywhere and couldn't find you." ID heard a bit from the headquarters team about John looking for me, but ID warned them beforehand not to reveal my whereabouts. They all found John's behavior giving our wedding apartment to another woman utterly off-putting and distanced themselves from him. After facing rejection a few times, he stopped coming around. I thought he had given up long ago. I pressed my palm against his shoulder to push him away and scrutinized him with a critical eye. Seeing him like this, I realized how poor my judgment used to beloving such a flawed man so intensely that I nearly lost myself was downright embarrassing. My voice was icy and detached as I said, "John, why are you still looking for me? I believe I made myself clear a long time ago." John replied passionately, "Elizabeth, come with me to a place. Once we're there, I know you'll forgive me." "I'm sorry. My time is valuable, and I don't have any to waste on you," I said, turning to leave. But John grabbed my wrist, shoved me into the back seat of his car, and swiftly locked the doors. I was about to call the police when he pleaded with me. "Elizabeth, please, just come with me to this spot. I promise, if after seeing it you still can't forgive me, I'll never bother you again." Almost involuntarily, I put down my phone, curiosity stirring about where this place could be that gave him such confidence. The route became increasingly familiar. And we finally stopped at the entrance of our old wedding apartment complex. I had a sinking feeling already. John led me upstairs and paused at our former apartment door. He pulled out a key and unlocked it. Inside, the decor had been restored to my original setup. The solid-colored fabric sofa, the tulip bouquet on the table, even the decorations that Mary Johnson and her group had shattered were replaced with identical pieces. John produced a bright red property deed and opened it, revealing both our names listed clearly, with a transfer date from 3 months prior. He handed the deed to me and said earnestly, "Elizabeth, the first was wrong before. Mary and I grew up together, and with her parents gone early. People always told me not to bully her but to protect and care for her. Over time, that became a deep-rooted obsession in my mind. But in these 6 months you've been gone, I realized you're the most important woman in my heart. The one I love most is you. Now I've gotten the apartment back. So let the conflict that started over this place end here as well." His words were smooth and moving, but they could only fool the old May. Didn't need them now. I pulled out my own house key from my bag and dangled it in front of him. I don't need to rely on anyone anymore. I have the ability to achieve anything I ever wanted on my own. The past half year of expanding the market out of town had been grueling, but it came with rewards. My salary doubled. Combined with the earlier 70,000 yuan, I made a down payment on a 60 square meter apartment. It wasn't huge or in a fancy location, but it was more than enough for me, a place truly my own. A home just for me. John stared at the key in my hand, stunned into silence. Finally, with tears welling in his eyes, he looked at me and said, "Elizabeth Brown, is there really no chance for us anymore?" I answered without hesitation, "None." Tears streamed down his face one by one, and I knew he had truly given up this time. He confidently took back the wedding house from Mary Johnson and went to great lengths to restore it to its former state, thinking he could finally win my forgiveness this time. But I hit him hard with the house issue and turned away immediately. I had no obligation to comfort him now. Downstairs, I ran into Mary face to face. Mary glared at me venomously. "Elizabeth Brown, you must be feeling pretty smug right now, thinking you've won, huh?" I never paid her any mind before, and now I cared even less. I simply ignored her and kept walking. Mary shouted after me, unwilling to let it go. "Elizabeth, I'm telling you, I'm pregnant with John Wilson's child. And he'll be mine for sure." I shrugged it off with a smile and blurted out my well wishes. "Then I wish your family of 3 all the happiness and joy in the world." This return trip had been nothing but trouble. Right after dealing with John, my parents showed up at my company to cause a scene. It turned out my brother had invested 280,000 yuan that went down the drain, and had even been scammed into going abroad by fraudsters who now demanded a 1 million yuan ransom. They used their life savings and sold their old apartment to scrape together 700,000 yuan, then tried to get the remaining 300,000 from me. I called the police and had them taken away. Later, they tried to gain sympathy online, attempting to guilt-trip me with filial piety. I posted the old disownment agreement online and wrote a long essay detailing my years of suffering from son preference. It instantly resonated with many girls, and I realized how many others shared similar experiences. We all encouraged each other online, cheering one another on. They even saw me as a role model. As girls, we can't choose our birth or our parents, but we can use our own hands and unyielding determination to build our own futures. When my parents failed to pressure me into giving them money using filial piety, they ended up getting cyberbullied themselves and never dared to show their faces online again. Later, I heard they borrowed money everywhere to raise the 1 million yuan. But my brother still wasn't ransomed back. The elderly couple, devastated by losing their son in old age, had a mental breakdown and eventually committed suicide. After hearing the news, I took a day off to return and bury their remains. 5 years later, I had risen to vice president at the company and was transferred back to headquarters. The company had a charity event to help children with heart disease recover, and I attended as the representative. I never expected to see John again at this, even though was holding a frail, thin boy and applying for the company's charity assistance slot. That's when I learned Mary had drugged John to get pregnant, and they married because of the baby. But due to the drugs, the child had underdeveloped in the womb and never had proper prenatal checkups. So he was born with a severe heart condition. Treating him drained their savings, and Mary ran off. Since we'd known each other once, I put in a word with the relevant staff, and John's child got approved for the charity assistance. After the event, as I left in the company car, John jogged over with the boy to thank me. I just waved it off indifferently. Later, a colleague asked why I didn't seize the chance to get back at that jerk and vent my old anger. I told her it wasn't necessary anymore. People who started on the same level years ago had met again with me at the peak of life while had faded into obscurity and was now accepting my charity. That alone hurt him more than any revenge ever could.